Hi, this is Lisa Rangel with Chameleon Resumes, the premier executive resume writing company, and thank you so much for joining me today. Today, we're going to talk about 3 bad questions to ask on interviews. I'm going to tell you straight up that this is strictly my opinion, and I welcome any agreement or discord in the comments, or you can reply back to me in an email. But I've seen these questions listed as advice, as good questions by other experts, and I disagree. I just don't think these 3 questions are good questions to ask on an interview, and I'm going to explain why. So, the first question that I think is a bad question to ask on an interview is, what are your company's values? Now, this may seem one of those very important questions to ask. You have to know what the values are of your company, of the prospective employer that you're going to join. I think the concept is absolutely important. However, I think asking this question in this form is really going to give you nothing but a canned answer and not really going to tell you anything about the company. I think instead, asking about, examples of people being promoted, what happens when people are feeling stuck at the company, what's typically happening, or asking about the interviewer's experience of why they joined, if they're new, or how they've been promoted, if they've been there a while, and just getting answers about actual situations that would demonstrate values instead of just a Pollyanna, type of question of like, what are your values? Again, I don't think anyone's going to answer truthfully. They're never going to say you have to answer your email within an hour, or you're absolutely never going to be able to go to your kid's game, or your boss you're going to come to learn is really toxic. When we've all joined companies and that was exactly what was the culture and what was the value of that organization, and that was never going to be said in an interview. So I think it's better to ask about experiences and situations than theory. So that's number 1. Number 2, the second question that I think is just not a great question to ask on an interview are how often are innovative ideas accepted here? Again, I know the point of asking is to get an idea of how receptive a certain company is to new ideas, innovative ideas, different perspectives. But I don't think anyone will ever, in the history of interviewing, answer, never, not that often, right? You're always going to get a positive answer out of that. And it's never going to be known if it's true. So, instead of that, maybe ask about specific initiatives that were new, or do your research and say, what other initiatives like X that I read about, are being put forth here or have been put forth over the last couple of years? Or what are some ideas that were great that you realize weren't going to really be feasible to put into practice? Because again, even failed ideas show innovative ideas being at least explored and even entertained. So I think asking about situations instead of, again, theory or Pollyanna type of answers is going to get you what you need, or at least closer to what you need. A third bad question to ask on an interview is, what does leadership mean to you? I mean, I think the people who tend to be very book smart and the MBAs, maybe really smart, schooled people will answer that well. But I don't think it necessarily is indicative that they are great leaders. It just means they know how to answer the question well. And then I think there's some really fantastic leaders that maybe won't articulate that type of answer in a way that is going to be either well received or be impressive. So again, I think if you start asking about situations or someone's experience, ask the interviewer their experience, you're going to then see examples of what they see leadership to be, and then you can decide if that's good leadership, bad leadership that you're in alignment with or not. But the key is, I think, in general, I mean, these are just three examples of questions that I don't think are very good to ask, because they don't really tell you anything, and it could even put forth possible negative impression that you don't ask good questions, right? That you're just kind of doing the box checking exercise of asking questions, but they aren't, in all honesty, really good questions. So, ask good questions. Be curious about people's experience. Ask them what they think of XYZ. Do some research and then ask their opinion about it. Ask, again, one really great way is if they're new to ask, what's their impression of things, why they joined, how is it different from their prior employer, what was surprising to them in a good way and maybe not so good way. And then if they've been there a long time, what changes have you seen? Which ones have you liked? Which ones have you not liked so much? When people are coming into the organization, what are their impressions? Where do they see a lot of new hires coming from? How are they adding to the company? What's the company been missing that the new hires are adding to? Just things like that. It's about experiences and situations and tangible experiences. And that then tells you a lot about the theory that they are putting into practice, about innovation, about leadership, and about values. So look for examples. That's my suggestion. If you would like this type of help on interviewing, the next time you're interviewing, or just to see how we can help you with landing senior level positions faster than on your own, I'm going to suggest that you sign up for a chat with us. Explore how you can hire us, how we can help you, make sure we understand your goals, and we can determine how we can help. Go to chameleonresumes.com and go to the schedule a call button. Just schedule a chat with us. We look forward to learning more about you and seeing how we can work together. If you like this video, I'm going to ask you to like it. If you know someone who will benefit from this type of interviewing advice, I'm going to ask you to share it. If you have any comments or any other bad questions you want to add, feel free to comment below or send me an email to lr@chameleonresumes.com. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, I'm going to ask you to subscribe. You can either hit the bell if you're on LinkedIn or subscribe to the channel if you are on YouTube. So I look forward to your thoughts, your questions, your additional questions to add to this list. And have a great day. Thank you so much for joining me.